I'm Justin Tippett from Ac3TV, and in this episode we're joined by the guru at customer satisfaction, Paul van Veenendaal. Paul, welcome back.
Thanks, Justin. It's great to be back again, and well done on Ac3TV.
No, thank you. It's good to see it's getting a few runs on the board, and you played a part in that. So now this episode, mate, I really want to sort of get into the different methods that companies are using to measure customer satisfaction.
Yep.
And I was wondering, can you sort of start off with just giving us a bit of a brief overview of some of the different types of methods that are out there?
Sure. Well, we do thousands of surveys every day of the week or the month, and basically we're starting to get a feel for what the four main measures that we're starting to see at the moment. I could talk about 40 different measures, but for the moment I just want to focus on four.
Hit us with it. Top four.
Top four. One would be Net Promoter Score. Lots of mileage on that. Next one is ease of doing business. Third one is customer effort score. Lots of people are starting to talk about that. And finally, first call resolution. First call resolution when we're talking about contact centre, of course.
Okay, so maybe if we take NPS as an example, when would that be good or not good to use for a company?
Well, NPS is fantastic really for an overall helicopter view of the company. You know, if you really want to know if people are going to recommend you to their friends or colleagues, then you've got to think about it from a helicopter overall perspective. As far as trying to work it with an agent, yeah, it's not as good, because what we find is if we start asking people after they've had an interaction with an agent and ringing them up and saying, so based on this experience, how likely are you to recommend? We find that they struggle to see the difference between that transaction and the overall NPS for the company. So typically we will see a higher NPS for agents and for teams than for the organisation. So you might get a +20 for, say, the agent. You'll end up getting maybe a +5 for the overall corporation.
Okay, and just quickly, for those that don't understand sort of how NPS works, can you just sort of very briefly explain
Absolutely. What it is? The 1 minute overview is that basically it's based on asking people, based on this experience or based on this organisation, how likely are you to recommend it to a friend or a colleague? So if you give it out of 10, 9 or 10 out of 10, you are a promoter of the organisation. If you give it 0 to 6, you're a detractor. And if you ask 100 people and let's say 40 give you 9 or 10 out of 10 and 20 give you 0 to 6 out of 10, your Net Promoter Score is +20. And that plus is pretty important because in Australia there are not that many companies that have a plus.
Right, okay. And, you know, I don't know if you've got this figure on top of your head, but at a global level, what would be the best score you've ever heard of in NPS world?
Oh, I've seen +85, +90. That's
wow. And
for
what
some
sort of organisations would be doing that?
They're ones like Zappos, those types of companies, the big customer service focused companies. We have seen it with some ISP providers here in Australia. There are some good ones there, but typically, you know, it just varies, and it's very important when you are thinking Net Promoter Score to benchmark against like providers in your market. People ask me, oh, what's a really good NPS score for another industry? It doesn't matter. It's like saying what's a good score for 100 metres in your country, in your state, if you're there to win that, right? It's got nothing to do with what's the time for 1,500 metres.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. The other one you mentioned, ease of doing business. Well,
Yep.
I've never heard that one, so
ease of doing business. So we've done quite a lot of work on this, and a lot gets around getting it's almost like becomes more of an art as well as a science, getting the question right and the absolute question you want to ask. So the devil is in the detail here. We are here trying to find out how I can give positive feedback to an agent to help them improve. So what is it that I would like the agent to think about when they're talking with a client? One way to paraphrase it is something like this. Based on your recent transaction, did the agent make it easy for you to have the inquiry addressed? Very clear, very targeted on how well the agent handled it.
Yep.
That is completely different to how easy was it to do business. Far too encompassing, and you can't use that well enough to target and provide good positive feedback to an agent.
Okay, so if we use that example you just gave me based on the recent transaction, did the agent make it easy for you to have the inquiry addressed? How does the customer answer that? Is it on a scale of 1 to 10? Or
yes,
right,
1 to 10. Yep. 0 to 10, sorry, 0 to 10.
Zero. The other one you mentioned, customer effort score, and have heard sort of that seems to be gathering a bit of momentum.
Well, people are saying it's the latest penicillin that's out there. Look, we've been doing quite a bit of work with it and work with different companies there. I have to say that it is a really good score when you're measuring an overall process, okay? When I'm saying I'm taking out a home loan, when I'm signing up to a water company or an energy company, I've got to talk about the whole process from go to woe. And that's the effort required. If you use it in a transaction, so we ring up a customer and say, based on that phone call, how much effort was put forth? The customer says, what do you mean, how much effort? I picked up the phone and dialed the number. It's got nothing to do with that specific transaction. When you're thinking customer effort score, think the total transaction. And that's the real customer journey from when they first thought about buying your services to when they actually started receiving it. That's when customer effort score has got some real power.
Yep, okay, understand. And the last one you mentioned, which has obviously been around a while, first call resolution.
Absolutely. First call resolution has been around in a while in the contact centre space. Interestingly, it does have high correlation with Net Promoter Score. So the higher the Net Promoter Score, the higher the first call resolution. However, there is a caution there, and when I'm in a conference or something and I say to people, how many people here measure first call resolution? 30% of the people will put up their hand and say we measure it. If I say, how confident are you that you are measuring first call resolution correctly, I usually find out about 5% of the people do that, okay? Right. And the purest measure of measuring first call resolution is to ask the customer. And that is absolutely bulletproof, because perception is reality, and that's what they're on about.
Okay, well that certainly gives us an insight, Paul, into the different types of customer satisfaction programs that are out there. What we might do in our next episode is just quickly explore what are the main drivers of customer satisfaction that probably fall across all of those different programs.
Great idea, and we can talk about it in relation to the contact centre in specifics.
Terrific, right, we'll see you shortly.
Thank you.